Start on time around here. Welcome, Johnny Manning.
Hi, Julia. How are you doing?
Hi, great, thank you. I'm going to do an introduction. You ready?
Go for it.
Okay, so Johnny and I have been working together since last year when he came to me and he said, I have a yearning to train my tutors. Well, that's exactly the right place to come from, isn't it? Because there's a change that's happening here together. Johnny and the Mannings team and the tutors, many of whom are here now, are the most amazing bunch of people to work with because they're through and through. And the point of this conversation, because Johnny's Mannings are sponsoring Thursday in the NTP conversation, because Mannings have been a very successful tuition partner, and we're really, really proud of the work that they've been able to do for the NTP. But Johnny's been delivering tutoring in schools for a decade already. And there's some special sauce happening in Mannings, and I wanted to sort of invite Johnny to sort of share some of the ingredients with us and see if, because we operate with a mindset of abundance around here, if we can get more agencies, more organizations and more tutors showing up with this special sauce, more students are going to benefit. So it's to all of our benefit to unpick what the magic in Mannings is in terms of recruitment and retention. So Johnny, with that, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the flattering introduction, Julia. And Mark, sorry I missed your speech just now. 3 children, none of which are of school age yet. So I was looking after them this morning, handed them over to my wife, who also runs her own company, before sprinting down to the office and getting into the nick of time. But I'm also a fellow member of the Company of Entrepreneurs, so I hear enough from Mark, if I'm honest. And I think we sit on a couple of committees together as well. So giving away my Tuesday morning to hear more of him talking, well, I'm sure is incredibly valuable. I think I've had my fill of Mark Huxley this year. Thank you also to Julia. I mean, she said some very flattering things about Mannings and about the special source of our recruitment. But of course, I want to pass some thanks back to Julia, because our relationship over the past year or so has been a fantastic one, and it's really helped Mannings to push to the next level. So some mutual respect on that side of things. So just to enlarge on Julia's introduction, Mannings was founded in 2008, and we have spent the last 13 years, so just over a decade, supplying tutors to schools and academies, working with disadvantaged pupils. So really, yeah, focusing previously on pupil premium funding, on getting one-to-one or small group tuition to the pupils that need it the most, not to those that can afford it. And then, of course, the National Tuition Programme came along, and I pinched myself that the government have said, let's do more of what Mannings already does. So it's quite nice that we're in a position of having 13 years experience doing exactly what the government is now backing. But as Julia points out, not every aspect of our business is perfect. There are certainly elements of it that we need to work on and enhance. I mean, our marketing is useless, and it's something that we're striving to get better. Customer service is good, could always be better. But the one thing that I've always said that we do so well is recruit good tutors and create a sense of belonging for them, and create somewhere that they want to be a part of, and sort of nurture that relationship between us and the tutors. So I am happy to speak on that subject for
lovely
for the remainder of this hour.
Okay, so we're going to take an interview approach here, and I've prepared some juicy questions to draw out some knowledge from Johnny, but I'm going to give you a good 25 minutes at the end for Q&A, because I don't know what's in your brain. So drop your Q&A in the chat, and we'll give Johnny some space and time to answer exactly what you're thinking about. And don't hesitate, there's no silly questions around here. So Johnny, the first question is, how did you get to be here now? A little bit of context, please.
A little bit of context. So 2008, as I said, was when the company was founded. The scene at the time, I was studying maths at London Imperial. I'd been a tutor since the age of 15, so I was 2 years ahead of my class in maths from primary school right the way through. When I was 15, I started tutoring one of my younger sister's friends. So of course, I could never tutor my younger sister. You cannot help your family. But one of my younger sister's friends, I think it was £10 an hour. I was living in the countryside. And apparently it went well because their neighbour then asked to have tuition as well, and then their neighbour's neighbour, and there's this tiny little hamlet that I think the first mum used to come and pick me up from my house, the second mum would give me dinner, and the third mum would then drive me home. So I was getting £30 and dinner at the age of 15. I couldn't believe my luck. That continued for a while. I then moved to London to study maths. Put the word out there that I was a tutor, and by the end of university, I think I was doing around 15 hours a week of one-to-one tuitions on my bike, cycling all over London. My Wednesdays was my Muswell Hill day because I didn't want to have to cycle up that hill too many times. And was getting towards the end of uni in 2008, and lots of things were happening. 2008, obviously the recession, everyone that had a job, it didn't look like such a stable concept to me. The idea of working with someone was supposed to be the stability, but everyone was sitting there going, "Oh, I might be made redundant." So that path didn't really appeal. And of course, maths degree in Imperial, the obvious one is the city, but I did a year in the city in my gap year, and that taught me that I never wanted to work in the city. So that was off the table. I had these private tuition clients, and they were always saying how hard it was to find young, friendly, enthusiastic, engaging tutors, sort of such as myself at the time. I'm not so young anymore, or maybe enthusiastic, I don't know. And I kind of thought, it can't be so hard. There are, in London alone, there's over 100,000 university students at top universities who are definitely intelligent. Some of those must have a personality as well. Some of those must have the communication skills to be able to tutor and support pupils a little bit younger themselves and want to pass it on. And like myself, they would presumably rather be doing this than a low-paid bar job. So the synergy between those was fairly obvious at the time. Another element that came into it, I couldn't stand the idea of only having 22 days holiday a year, and I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. So the only solution was to launch a business that was in education somehow, so I could retain the rights to a 6-week summer holiday, and at the same time be doing something that I clearly had cut my teeth in, understood really well, and could add some value to. At the beginning, so obviously setting up tuition agencies, I imagine there's a few people in this room who either have done or will be setting up tuition agencies. There are a lot of tuition agencies because it's a fairly easy, I'm not downvaluing it, but there are very low barriers to entry. If you have found a friend who will tutor and doesn't mind you taking some of the commission for finding them that work, then you have a tuition agency. There are very little overheads. So you do need something that sets you apart from the crowd. And I was looking at it and going, well, yeah, we could sort of target the private market, and we'd be fighting with everyone on Google and struggling to find our space in that. Or I thought, we need to go to schools and become the trusted agency for these schools and academies. The ambition at the very start wasn't for the schools to pay for us. I had no idea that might be something that they would do. But the very fact that I went into these schools and got speaking to people and said, like, we want to be the agency that parents' evening, you sit there and you recommend. And I went to Paddington Academy and they said, well, we've got some pupils you could work with. I said, oh, no, sorry, I think you're misunderstanding what I was asking for here. And they said, I think you're misunderstanding what we're offering. We want to pay you. I said, okay, I've got you now. And that was the birth of what Manning's is. So we started working with some disadvantaged pupils there. Pupil premium didn't exist at the time, but that came in a little later when schools had these funds to spend on disadvantaged pupils. But we've never looked back. That was the golden moment that said, okay, we can do something that's really good for these pupils that deserve the assistance. It's really good for the tutors. It's really good for the schools because their results are going to go up. I was like, I can build a business here and sleep very soundly at night, knowing I'm doing a good thing. So it felt good, and then continued with that. Is that back history enough for you, Julia?
Fabulous. And I did not know that it was Paddington's that brought you into working with schools. That's fabulous. So tell me this.
Indeed.
What's it all about for you? We've been talking about values all day. We're big thinkers around here. So what's your why? What's it all about?
What's my why? So I think I've sort of mentioned this.
Yeah.
It's creating something that's good for everyone. I've been trying to distill what are mission is try and sum this up in one single sentence. And this is with, I have a mentor at the Company of Entrepreneurs as well. If anyone wants to get involved with the Company of Entrepreneurs, they are very giving people, as you can tell between Mark and Julia's relationship already, and mine with my mentor. I think our mission goal is to improve the life chances of all young people, which is quite a broad and ambitious title, but really, that means that we can capture both the students that we're working with and the tutors that we're providing the work opportunity to in the same statement, because we do truly believe that we're taking, we do have tutors of all ages, but because we advertise in the universities, we tend to get slightly younger people who are applying, but we are welcome to absolutely everybody. But we're offering them something that's going to further their career, that's going to give them something more meaty to get into while they're at university than perhaps the usual bar job, and certainly it's going to give them better pay than the bar job, so they're not going to be too distracted from their studies. At the same time, we're taking pupils that are potentially being left behind, that don't have as much resource or support at home potentially as their better off peers, and making sure that they get that one-to-one or small group attention that I think everyone in this room knows is incredibly valuable when you're going to school and you're sitting in a class of 30 pupils all day, and you're getting 1 minute within that class to ask your individual questions, and you've presumably got half an hour of questions that you wish to ask. Then we know that having that more focused time with a mentor or a tutor or someone to support you, whoever that may be, is so valuable.
Johnny, you've come to that idea of people development, haven't you? Developing the students and developing the tutors, which I think is going to be exactly where we're going in this session. I think that's really what's going to make the difference for tutoring agency leaders who want to nurture a staff of tutors or a team of tutors. So let's just ask one more question before we dig into recruitment and retention, and that is, how did it feel when the NTP was announced? Because you dropped a breadcrumb of that a few weeks ago when we were speaking, and I hadn't seen it before, so I found that really interesting.
What was the breadcrumb I dropped?
You said that the pressure was on because if you hadn't got the NTP tuition partner role, then that would have been very, very difficult. So the stakes were quite high in that moment, weren't they?
The stakes were, but I essentially going to the casino with all your worldly belongings and putting it on red or black, because I mean, if you look at the 32 providers that are on NTP, I'd say 29 of them have multiple sources of income. They are potentially tuition agencies who are generally focused on the private market, and the school market is an afterthought for them. You have people like Pearson's, who obviously create exams and became a tuition agency purely because of the NTP. And then you have us, who, and I think one or two others perhaps, who the only thing we do is supply tutors to schools and academies. And so the NTP came along, and it was both an opportunity and a potential threat at the same time for anyone that's been focusing on their SWOT analysis lately. Because yes, okay, the NTP was massively opening up the market. This was going to drive demand for tuition through the roof, and so a great opportunity for us, if we were on the inside, to grow our company. But at the same time, of course, if we didn't get chosen as one of those 32 providers, then our business was going to be bankrupt, because no one was going to pay full price for something that they can get a 75% discount on elsewhere. And being a small company that has bootstrapped its way to growth and has never really applied for a government grant or anything like this before, it's nothing that we have expertise or speciality in. That was a very nerve-wracking process, and it certainly involved some self-doubt and some imposter syndrome within there. And have days where it's like, well, of course we're going to get this. This is what we do. We've been doing this for 13 years, so it's a given. And then there were days where I was sitting there thinking, yeah, who are you kidding? You're one guy that's in a small office in Leighton, and you know, you're not up there with Pearson's, you know, and you can't compete, or with my tutor who just raised £4 million in funding. So yes, though, I definitely ebbed and flowed in confidence along that line. Didn't help, so that the application went live at the beginning of September, and it had 2 weeks to turn around what turned out to be a 54-page application. Were due in on the 18th of September, and our third baby was due on the 16th of September. So I was, every day that I was working on this application form, reminding my wife that the baby needed to stay in until it was until the form was done, which I think I got the form the day after the due date, and then our third child, Tully, came the next day. So he obeyed my commands. I think it's the last time he'll obey my commands, but yes, he gave us the time to get this in. We had 1 month of sleepless nights, both because of the baby and the worry, until we found out whether or not we're part of the NTP. And thankfully, we were. And this year we've grown from somewhere around 140 tutors to over 300 tutors, working with about 6,000 pupils and about 30,000 hours of tuition this year. So it's, yeah, it's worked out well. But of course, we've got to reapply for next year. So I've got all that worry to come again this summer.
Yeah. So I'll tell you why I really wanted you to explain that. It's because we've been talking all morning about having our heads above the parapets, and how scary and brave it is. And one of us, Serena, just mentioned earlier that it's so lovely to hear that we're doing this alongside each other. We're not alone, because when you're sort of in your own room in Leighton or Edgware, you feel like you're bonkers because everybody else has a sensible job. But when you're values driven, and you see a change that needs to happen, then off you go, and it's just lovely to be in company with it. So let's dig into recruitment and retention. So the question is this.
Before we jump onto that, I do want to share something. This is probably more entrepreneurial than, but I know that's got a big leaning today than about recruitment and retention. But it's funny, people talk about launching a company and the bravery that it takes to step out of your day job and take that leap. And that's very, very true. But what I've come to realize over the years is you actually have to make decisions as brave as that every year or every couple of years, because your company gets to a point and then you have to go, okay, to drive forward, I've got to take this incredibly large gamble that's as big as a gamble you might have made at the beginning. So it kind of doesn't go away. Then actually, when I walked into the office last week, there was they put the motivational quotes up. Of course they do, it's a co-working space, but it said, every company that you see, someone once made a brave decision. And I really felt like getting crayon out and writing over and saying someone multiple times made many brave decisions. So no, I wanted to squeeze that one in there, but carry on with the recruitment.
It looks in the chat like we all agree with you, and as you're saying it, makes my heart thump. But that's, it's a joy.
When I got to watch you making this brave decision, Julia, as well, back in it was in November that you gave up teaching and the school, right. and fully launched qualified tutor. So really, it's really exciting watching people do that and do it successfully. So
it is, and it's important to do it in community, because you're just much more likely to be successful if you're doing it alongside each other. Because Johnny, you put me in touch with the company of entrepreneurs, and Mark's been helping me since then. And to help ourselves, let's stay together and keep this conversation joined up. So Manning's tutors, this is why I've given you this topic, because Manning's tutors have a thread running through them. And you just pointed to it earlier, didn't you? You said enthusiastic, friendly, young, and engaging. Young has a broader term nowadays, I reckon. But
I came up in an interview the other day, because I'll get onto our interview process, but there was a gentleman in the room. I mean, we don't actually write young anywhere, but he was a good 30 years older than the other candidates in the room, and he said, I feel quite old compared to the people here. And then my point to him there was, youth, or it's not about your age, it's about your outlook on life and your enthusiasm and your excitement for what you're doing. So and it's really important for us to understand that. And the reason we have 20-year-old tutors is purely because we advertise in universities, and so that's where we get the applicants. But we take on, we get applicants that find us from other means as well. Sorry, I completely spoke over.
No, that's stunning. And Mark just confessed that he's 15 on the inside and I'm 16 on the inside. So we're all quite young around here.
I find cycling with Mark, he would very much beat me. So yeah, he's got far more youth in his legs there.
Super. So let's go. You pointed to it already. What are the guiding principles of recruitment in Manning's?
The guiding principles of recruitment in Manning's. So where we advertise, because we're advertising in top universities, as I said, we know these people are intelligent. In fact, I like to think that the universities are doing our stage 1 interviews for us, because they are making sure that these are people that have 3 A grades or above in their A levels. So I'm really grateful for them for taking that stage of the recruitment off of our hands. That gives us the luxury position of being able to focus on the person and finding out why it is they're looking to tutor, what it is they're going to bring to the table, what it is they're going to bring to the pupils that they're working with, and are they doing it for the right reasons. So I mean, should I take you through that interview process, how we run through that? Because I think you'll pick up our motivations along those lines, or I can maybe unpick them as we go. So the first stage, we invite people to apply on our website. And along with that, we have a video application. So there's a written form, and then they answer a video that says, why it is others should be interested in the subject that they are studying at university. So if they're studying maths at university, why should someone else be interested in that? Why is it that they chose that? And we can wheedle out quite a lot of people straight away from there, so you get people that send just like, oh, I do it because I'm good at it, or I do it because I'll get a good job. And that's not the sort of person that we want to be inspiring the next generation, the generations 4 or 5 years below them, perhaps. So from that written and video application form, we select the people to move to the next stage, which is a one-to-one interview, which takes place online. Key questions within that one-to-one interview. So we sort of just tick off a few things like, how much are you looking to take on, and what subjects are you happy to teach, and where are you? You got the right to work in the UK, all of that. But then the key questions we're asking are, if we gave you a GCSE pupil who's struggling to get that all-important C grade or grade 4 or grade 5, whatever is acceptable as a pass at that stage. And they turn to you and they say, what's the point in this? If it's maths, I'm never going to use maths in my life. I'm going to be a footballer. Or if it's English, why am I studying Romeo and Juliet? This language is old. It means nothing today. What's the point? And the question to the tutor is, what do you say to get that child back on side, to get them learning and to get them potentially, hopefully, enjoying that subject? Because I think a lot of people go into teaching or tutoring thinking that they're going to be sitting down with the A grade pupil and inspiring them, and it's all going to be rosy. And certainly if you watch any DFE teaching adverts on telly, they don't show you the nitty-gritty of trying to coax someone that doesn't want to learn into learning. They show you, the igniting imaginations and the sort of romantic and poetic side of it. And of course that does exist, but we do also really need to know how you get through to someone that's maybe a little bit more resistant. So that's a vitally important question for us, and we read an awful lot from that one. We do then move on in that one-to-one interview to the more romantic question of, okay, you've got an A-level pupil, they've chosen to do geography because they love it, they're excited about it, but they're also doing history, and they're also doing physics, and they're also doing music tech, And you're a geography university student, so what is it you can tell them about your experience at universities so far that will inspire them to maybe follow in your footsteps? So what one bit of it have you just found so fascinating that you can distill it, break it down for an A-level pupil, and really sort of ignite their imagination and make them think, yes, further education is for me. I'm going to go on to university, and this is a subject I'm going to study, and that's why. And again, that could be incredibly revealing, because you get some people that at that point they're stumped. They don't know why it is they're finding their subject fascinating. So yeah, those are the 2 key questions within that one-to-one interview.
So it's something about being inspiring. It's something about empathy, about paying it forward, and about self-awareness, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course with university students at the moment, there are a lot that are potentially there and they don't know why they're there. I think you look back to the Tony Blair years of right, everyone's got to go to university, and it's now just become a natural progression. So you go school, college, do your A levels, and you don't even think about it. I mean, I think at our school, my college in Godalming, a couple of people, I remember one, I think his name was Alex, didn't want to apply to university. He had a career plan and it was a fantastic career plan, but they still made him do university applications and they still made him do UCAS, even though he was saying, I'm not doing this. So there are many people that will be swept up in that conveyor belt and will potentially not know why it is there at university and won't be there because they're loving it. And again, that's not going to be a Manning's tutor.
No, but it is interesting that you're saying that the first round of applications has actually been done by the university, because by creating that barrier to entry, you've created a very high entry point, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important for us, of course, I don't think, from our perspective, to be teaching a GCSE subject, you should have achieved an A-level grade A in that subject. And if you wanted to teach A-level in a subject, then you need to be studying a relevant degree. Of course, you could be teaching potentially English A-level if you had an English A-level grade A or A star and had gone on to study perhaps history or vice versa. Something like that. So we said relevant degree. Yeah. The third stage of our interview process, so those that have been successful, and I think we lose about 50% at each stage here, is a group interview, which until the pandemic would have been done in person. So we'll get 5 or 6 of the candidates that have been progressing through the stages to our offices, or at the moment it's on Zoom. And the 2 key parts of that interview. The first stage, we have a sort of welcome meet and greet, and we actually go around the table and we say your name, your university, what is you're studying, or if you're not at university, what it is you're doing with your life at that time. And then you get to ask one question, any question you like of the person that's following you, the person to your left. And I think everyone that sits down and partakes in this activity, I'm not sure if we've got many Manning's tutors here, but if we do, actually I can see one, I can see Hazel there. I've only got 5 people on my screen at the moment. Thinks that perhaps that's just an icebreaker, just to get things moving, and doesn't realize that we're actually reading an awful lot at that stage. So both in the question that someone chooses to ask and the way that they're given the answer. And essentially there's no bad question, no bad answer, but we do say that asking what's your favorite color is maybe perhaps not a great question, that someone could have been a bit more imaginative of that. And we do sort of try and set the tone by asking questions ourselves at the beginning. But of course, if you're asked what's your favorite color, there are 2 ways you can answer that. You can sit there and say blue, I'm Johnny Manning, and just move on. Or you can see that you can identify and read the room and see that it's your opportunity to showcase a little bit of your personality and to extrapolate on your answer and to say, well, my favorite color was blue, but actually I walked past a house the other day and I saw this fantastic magenta on the windowsill, and suddenly I've changed my allegiance. Or there's always opportunity to add a little bit more and to showcase your personality. And so we are interpreting an awful lot from that. So that's the first half of the interview, and I've let the cat out of the bag for all of the Manning's tutors here. That was just an icebreaker and didn't realize they were being judged, because we then move on to what they would clearly identify as being the main part of the interview, where we provide them with an article based on the subject that they're applying to teach, or that they're studying at university. Sometimes one on their own, or sometimes in pairs, depending on who is in the room. So for English, we have a piece taken from The Guardian that they have to present a GCSE style English analysis of. For biology, there's a piece on antibiotic resistance and T cells. And they're completely unaware that this is what's going to happen, but they get 10 minutes to prepare a presentation on that article. Now, the articles are purposefully quite high level, they're A level, potentially degree level, but we ask them to present it as if to a GCSE audience. So what we are getting them to do there is to demonstrate one, that they are able to make the article interesting and engaging. We've used the same articles for about 7 or 8 years now, so we don't change them. So we've got a very good barometer on what's a good and what's a dull presentation on those. But we're also seeing that can they take their obviously incredible intellect, park it aside for a little bit and break things down to a level that someone that's not at their level can understand. Now, of course, we've got very, very bright people in the room, but from different disciplines. So we'll have an English university grad and a maths grad in the room. So the maths grad has to make the English grad understand the maths article and vice versa. So yeah, we're definitely, they're playing the role of the slightly naive GCSE student in the room at that point. So we leave them alone for 10 minutes to prepare. And while we're out of the room, we're actually already discussing what we thought about them in the first part of the interview. So we're saying, okay, well, that person, yeah, love their personality, they would have to do a really bad presentation to throw it away right now. Equally, that person couldn't quite get a read from them. They got quite a dry question, and we'll give them the benefit now, but can't wait to see what their presentation is. So we're coming back into the room and then seeing these presentations and getting, that's the meat of it really, is getting that full understanding of what this person's going to be like as a tutor. Giving them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt if they're a bit nervous about standing up and talking in front of people. So there's definitely been some people that have walked away thinking, oh gosh, I won't get that because I was all nerves and shakes, that have become tutors because we understand that sitting down with 1 or 3 people is a bit different to standing up in an interview with 8 people. So that's something we definitely consider. And yeah, bid them farewell, and that is our 3-stage interview process that has got more and more and more rigorous over the years. I mean, if I go back to 2008, the interview process was me sitting in a cafe with anyone that had applied and speaking to them for 20 minutes. And that's important, is because the temptation as a company grows is generally, okay, we need more tutors and we need to recruit them faster, so let's expedite the interview process and let's make it easier for people to get in because we need more of them. But of course, we've done the complete opposite of making it longer and harder. And I think because we're working in co-working space, people have overseen the interviews before and they've heard of the article. They said, that's one of the hardest interviews I've come across. But that's important because the tutors are our product. And if we skimp on that, or if we cut corners and recruit people that aren't of that standard, then we are compromising our key product, and we will be letting ourselves down in that instance. So that is why that it continues to expand and become more and more rigorous as we grow.
So gorgeous. Where do I apply? And I think Charles is coming as well. Basically, you're speaking to a room full of people who would love to do that interview process. And I think as I was,
they know what we're judging them on. So.
Well, I think what's lovely about it is that as I noticed that, yes, I'd love to, I noticed that what you're bringing me is the opportunity to learn about your culture as I teach you about mine. Yeah. So the process of coming through is already teaching me what Manning's is all about. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd agree. And yeah, we actually go back to that icebreaker question we ask at the beginning. We set them off on that. We have a rule that when we start this, I'll say, I'm Johnny Manning, I studied maths, and my question to my neighbour. And then the rule is that we are never allowed to use the same question twice. And we are also not allowed to think of it beforehand. So like everyone in the room, we are on the spot of coming up with a question. But unlike everyone else in the room, we've had to come up with several hundred questions over the years, and we're not allowed to revisit any of those. So we will end up with, Johnny Manning, I'm studying maths, and how many times have you been to France? Or, what is your favorite biscuit? And we just, they're having to get more and more obscure as the years go by, and we have asked more and more of the potential icebreaker questions. So, but like, I think you're right. By doing that, and by making sure it's not mundane, and by showing a little bit of our personality at that time, and then putting ourselves in their shoes, that is indeed demonstrating part of our company culture and what we're about and what they are coming into.
Yeah. And if they choose to be part of that, they understand that there's rigor and there's also humanness. And when they go out and represent you with students in schools, they're going to be showing up with that same culture. So let's move on to retention, because I want to make some space for questions as well, as you know. That not very human phrase of churn rate, right? Tutors come and go. Tutors will be enrolled with lots of agencies.
Yeah.
But I think Manning's tutors stick with Manning's tutors. So how do you build that loyalty? How do you reduce churn rate? And I know the answer to this already. What's your attitude towards people moving on?
Okay, so yes, people come and go and people work for multiple agencies, and I do very much endorse that. In fact, I mean, we almost have a churn rate built into our model, because if we are advertising in universities, we are going to get a lot of people who are studying for a 3 or a 4 year degree and are planning to move on and work full-time afterwards. So each summer we lose approximately a third of our workforce, and we're fine with that. And to be honest, it fits quite well with the fact that the demand raises and raises and raises to March, April, May, and then it obviously falls off the cliff, and we have less demand for tuition come September than we did when we broke up in exam season. So the two marry each other reasonably well, fortunately. And I think I send a farewell, we'll send a personal email to most people that leave us, thanking them for our time, wishing them all the best in their future endeavors, because I really do, we have a reasonably intimate understanding of our tutors, and do get to know them and feel a part of their journey while they're with here. And I think I then sign off with just, don't be a stranger, and you're welcome back anytime. So no one would ever have to re-interview to be a Manning's tutor again. Once you're a Manning's tutor, you're a Manning's tutor for life. So yeah, we have the churn rate built in, and of course we have people that work for our agency and for other agencies. Interestingly, I think, okay, so how do we build the allegiance, and deciding which part of this to start with? Okay, so I'll talk about what we do with the tutors first, and then I'll talk about some of the other parts. So we definitely want this to be something that the tutor feels they belong to. That was something I set out with the intention of doing right back in 2008. I didn't want this to be a tuition platform. I think Tutor Hunt at the time was perhaps the market leader in terms of a place where tutors could go, sign themselves up. There was not necessarily an interview. You wrote your own profile, and it was a platform, similar to an eBay or an Amazon, but with tutors, or maybe more similar to Match.com, but just rather than matching males and females, it's matching parents and tutors. And that wasn't what we wanted to create for our tutors. We wanted something that they felt an integral part of. And how did we achieve that? Well, one was, as you said, the interview process, so sort of getting to know them, having an interview, and helping them to understand the culture of Manning's at the beginning. But then from the very off, we've had regular get-togethers. So 3 times a year, we would take the tutors, or at least offer to take the tutors out for food and drink, which, in the first year when we had about 8 or 9 tutors was a fairly easy thing to do. And then each year we sort of look at it and go, okay, we're going to invite 300 tutors to come and to eat and drink with us. I think we tend to get around a 20% response rate. So at least we don't need to book a ridiculously large hall. So I think last time we took around 50, 60 people. Well, in the pandemic, unfortunately, we had to do it online, and sort of racked our brains on how to make sure that was an enjoyable experience for them. But as well as doing it online, we'd send them some little cocktail kits in the post, some alcoholic, some non-alcoholic. Just, it was important to us to sort of be continuing what we had done previously. So thrice yearly, taking them out, wining them, dining them, but also just having that opportunity to speak to them, having myself and the other people in the office circulating around the room and getting to know the tutors, so that when you're sending someone to a job, it's not just tutor 357, it's right, that's Hazel, and I know that Hazel, you're at the top of my screen, so I'm picking on you here. I know Hazel. I remember speaking to her last week about her. Hazel doesn't have a collection of hamsters, but you know the person. And one other thing we've done to sort of, really feel that we know the people is we've got a Polaroid wall in the office. So we have every tutor's Polaroid and their name underneath stuck up. So again, when you're sitting there and you're moving tutors around, there's a reminder that that's a human that you're dealing with, and not just someone that's on your platform, a nameless, faceless maths tutor. So there's that side of things. We've been, as I keep on saying, we've enhanced things as we've grown, because we have indeed. We've about 4 years ago, we thought we can go further than this, and we put in place a can't remember what we called it now. Kind of like a Top Achievers Club. That's not the name we've got for it. I've had a mind blank about what we branded as, but each year we say to the tutors that have really impressed us, in the sense of we keep on getting great feedback from them. When we phone them, they're answering, or they responded to their emails nice and quickly and saying, yeah, no, that's no problem. They'll cover another tutor when someone needs covering. They're just, we get a sense, and it's quite a nice day when we all sit around and sort of say, who are those 6 or 8 tutors this year? And we sit around the office and pick them. And then we take them for a rewards evening, and we actually let them choose. We say, okay, here's the 6 tutors, here's some options we've got, who wants to do what? So the first year, we went and did an escape room together, followed by a really nice meal. The second year, we took them to the theatre, and we're just waiting for the pandemic to ease off so we can take last year's out for some sort of treat this summer. And that's been really nice again, and that's something that, again, that helps the rest of the community to sort of buy in and to understand that, they are not just a pawn in this. They are part of this big picture, and that their efforts will be recognized, and they can to be a bigger part of it. And of course, in terms of our internal recruitment, in terms of the people that are working in the office, every single one of the staff on our payroll, so not the tutors, because tutors are self-employed, but the 19 people we now have on the payroll have all been tutors previously. So, including myself, I guess, yeah. So everyone has worked as a tutor before them progressing and working in the HQ. And that's really good, because again, for the tutors, that's something that they can feel that they're progressing towards. And for us, it's fantastic, because they understand the company already. They've bought into it. And I think most of them were probably at one of the Top Achievers Clubs at some point. So yeah, we're not having to sort of bring someone in and explain the whole company culture from scratch. We've been doing that with them for a couple of years. So that's what we do proactively to engage them. We also have regular pay rises 3 times a year. Your pay can go up by 50p if you've been doing a good job, or £1 if you're doing an absolutely amazing job. So we've got some tutors who get double pay rises 3 times a year. So start on £16 an hour, and then are at £19 an hour within a year, and £22 an hour the second year. So there's that reward for engaging and going above and beyond. That's such a cliched term, above and beyond, isn't it? But just, not treating this as a throwaway profession, but just investing in it and going, I am a tutor, not just because it's something to do and a way to pay the bills, but it's because I want to add value to these pupils and to this company, and now with the National Tuition Programme, of course, the nation's pupils as a whole. Yeah, and then so that was the side of what we're doing. But then, of course, I was just going to tell one story about a tutor that worked simultaneously for us, going into schools and work with disadvantaged pupils, and with another company that more of the sort of West London, charging £100 an hour, paying the tutor probably triple what we paid them. And he regularly would turn down the other work to do our work, because he understood that there was more to it than the finance, and that he was making a far greater difference doing the work that we were providing him than the work that he was being offered by this other company. So I hope, and I believe there is an element of that with our tutors as well, that they understand that like myself, yes, okay, they're doing it because it's a job and it's an income, but we get to sleep really easily at night knowing we're doing something really phenomenal for a lot of pupils. How's that, Julia? Did I answer your question?
You did. But Again, I only know what's in my head. I don't know what's in everybody else's. So we're handing over now to the group. Johnny, if you're on speaker view, move now to gallery so you can see everyone. You mentioned that you could only see a few people.
Oh, okay, I'm in gallery view now. No,
Great.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, super. So please put your hands up or just unmute yourself and let's hear some questions for Johnny. It's a lovely opportunity. Miguel, go ahead.
Sure, that was quick. Hi, Johnny. So I've pivoted from hotels into tuition over the last year, and probably of all the webinars and talks that I've listened to, yours has been number one. So thank you for that, because I come from an environment where that's exactly how I treated my staff and how I built teams, and loyalty is a strange word for me, but it's commitment and how people commit not only to themselves but also to you. So being in the beginning of a tuition agency and not coming from education, the idea is obviously to scale up. So how did you move from being, let's call it front of house, where you are in the cafe doing the interview and scheduling and payroll and all that? How did you move into the back of house role where you are strategic and have, you know, the top view of the business, and how long did that process take you?
Very good question, and thank you very much for your nice comment at the start there, and I hope everything's going well with Tutor 2. It took a very long time, and it's still not done, and it's about letting go of the right things at the right time. So I mean, you know, 2008, it was, you know, I was, as you say, doing the interviews, doing the payroll, working as a tutor as well. I mean, I was doing 20 hours a week of tuition at the beginning, just because we needed to, I needed to have the income while the company grew. And I didn't actually stop tutoring until 2012. And the only way I managed to extricate myself from that side of things was I moved to Paris with, which was my fiance at the time. We got engaged and said, let's go and have a 1.5-year engagement party, live in a different country. But I could no longer do the tutoring myself. And that was my first big leap of going, okay, well, now I can focus on all the other parts of the business and really sort of grow those. And then sort of from there, you know, as the company did grow, it was about letting go of the right things at the right time. And the interviewing was actually one of the parts that I really struggled to let go of, because I knew what I was looking for in a tutor, and that I felt that was something that it was really difficult to teach to someone else. And I waxed lyrical at the beginning of this about how that's almost the most pivotal part of the company. And I was like, oh gosh, I mean, you know, what if I train someone else and they're not doing it the way I would want to do it? So that was a really difficult one to relinquish. And I didn't actually relinquish until this year. So I would have still been sitting at that final group stage interview, just as the pandemic came along. But yeah, I mean, that's about everything we've spoken about. That's about building that team around you and instilling that company culture in them, and having them share in your vision, and having them fully understand what it is that you're trying to achieve and who it is you're looking for. And yeah, that takes time, and you can't let go of those reins until you have those people. And I'm sure you knew that in the hotel industry. I mean, there's so many similarities between businesses. And so my wife, as I mentioned, runs her business. She launched a bookshop bar a couple of years ago, and is hoping to open a second one soon. So she's having to grapple with that she was the face of the business, that she was the one that was recommending the books, and now she's having to let go of the first place and move to the second place. Does she know that the staff that she has around her are representing what she wants in the same way? So yeah, slowly over time, and choose which bits of your business you want to let go of first, and retain the bits that you feel are the most important. So the one bit I'm now struggling to let go of, but should have let go of at the beginning of this year, is the discussions with our key clients. So the onboarding of schools. I'm still having the initial conversations with those, and because I feel that I'm still the best representative of Mannings, and I just need to have the confidence to pass that on to someone else, and to build them and grow them, and trust in them. And yeah, so that's where I'm hoping to get to in the next year, and then that will be day-to-day running of the business will all be relinquished, and I will be free to focus on the larger picture and help drive us forward as we need to do.
Fabulous. Thanks, Miguel. That was a lovely question. It pulled on a really rich theme. Thank you. Ollie, I'm sorry, we're not going to have time. I'm just going to give Kareem, because he put his hand up first, and then we're going to stop at 1 o'clock. So Kareem, go ahead.
Thank you, Julia. And a huge thank you, Johnny, for your very heartwarming, inspirational talk. I think everyone can agree that you've sort of exposed the real qualities and characteristics of what it means to be a leader compared to being a boss. So thank you for demonstrating exactly what we've been doing previously in this very session. So before I continue, I wish you and Mannings all the successes in the future. I hope things go well and continue with every single application round. I know how stressful it can be to get something in as big as that. And I wanted to actually sort of bring it down to the tutor perspective. So I'm a tutor myself. I've been tutoring unofficial like yourself since I was in sixth form, and I have been doing the system about 9 years ago now. And only the last year and a half have I taken it from, you know, speaking with friends, family members, and then friends of them, to then starting to think, okay, maybe I can contact a tutoring agency. And I was very fortunate to bump into one called Tutors, who have a very heartwarming and family orientated view of themselves and how they treat each other. And I feel like I would love to stay here and be retained because of this family feel, as opposed to being hard cash and just trying to connect the supply with the demand. And something that I think, and maybe on the minds of other people as tutors, is what can we do in order to better ourselves as tutors, as parts of a tutor agency, as a retention policy, or at least a strategy? To what degree can you implement training and continued training to become a better tutor? I know you have this issue with a lot of sort of tutors leaving you after a certain amount of time, but perhaps this could be something that would then make them feel like they can keep it going. So I only tutor 2 to 4 hours a week outside of my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I hope that question makes sense.
Okay, so I think you're asking what can the tutor do to sort of better themselves and potentially be retained within the company, but what can the agency do to retain their tutors? Okay, from the tutor's perspective, I'd just say buy into it. You know, we definitely, when we look at our roster of 300 odd tutors, we can tell which tutors are there on the treadmill doing it for the money and not much else, and then we can tell the tutors that are invested in it. And of course, you know, unless your agency that you're working for is purely algorithmic, which of course there are a few of them out there, you do got to remember that there are people at the other end who are making the decisions of who gets the work and who doesn't, and presumably doing so based on just very human feelings about things. And if it comes down to 2 tutors that pitch themselves forward for something, you're going to go for the one that you know responds to your emails and your texts in a timely manner and in a polite way, rather than the one who's always causing you issues. So buy in, be invested, get involved. You know, if the agency is offering you food and drinks, come and take the food and drinks. So it's not a trap. But then from the agency's perspective, the agency constantly needs to be focused on the tutors and focus on the people. And you know, I've done a complete disservice to Julia here, because I've talked about how we've grown from just having the get-togethers of the drinks, and then we started having the rewards evening, and then that wasn't enough for us, and that's when I reached out to Julia and I said, I think we need to be doing more for the tutors here, and that's why we invested in the training with Julia. And that's become, we've actually replaced our induction session that we used to do with this 4-part training with Julia, and we feel it really wonderfully introduces the tutors to working with Mannings without us having that separate induction. We then are working with Julia on a coaching program, so that once a tutor goes over a certain number of hours of tuition, we're offering a 4-part coaching program where they can reflect on their learning. So apologies, Julia, for leaving that ridiculously key part of our retention program out of my conversation earlier. And Kareem, I hope that sort of answers your question.
Yes, it covered everything.
I kept that shorter if the other person wanted to ask their question as well, Julia.
Oh, that was really, really kind. Kareem, from my point of view, it's about leaning in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about
leaning in. Thank you for your advice. And
Ollie, go ahead. Johnny wants to hear from you.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for taking the time to hear me out. I just wanted to say that I found your talk really inspirational, and it was just so fascinating to hear your perspective and how you started your journey, and your love for tutoring and for growing the business and for investing in your tutors. So thanks for that. It was just a very quick question. I wanted to know, because I currently work, I currently do lots of voluntary work with another company who are involved in the national tutoring program, and that's during the day. In terms of what you are most of your tutoring sessions done after school hours, or is it a case of the national your tutors kind of focus on the national tutoring program during the day, and then after school hours you focus more on the private element?
We have tuition available throughout the week. So we do some before school, during school. The 3 till 5 is basically the most in demand time slots. Schools looking to have tuition straight after school. We do evenings, we do weekends, we have everything. I see you with Action Tutors. I've got a lot of love for Action. We work in a lot of the same schools we have done for the last 10 years. I'm going for lunch with the head of Action in the summer just to sort of decompress and review the year. So while we might seem like rivals on the face of it, and once upon a time I did think, my God, Action are coming in and offering what we offer, but for free. That's some pretty tough competition. But no, I think there's space for everyone in this, and I think they're doing a fantastic thing. But we have to manage what's really important to us is making sure that the tutors have the income, because you sort of forget, I mean, these algorithmic companies that offer the work to anyone are completely neglecting the fact that the tutors need the income and need to keep a roof over their head.
Of course, yeah.
The first thing that happened with the pandemic, when that hit in and we lost 90% of all of our work, we put a survey out to the tutors and said, how dependent are you on you for work? Are you trying to keep the roof over your head? Are you, it's good for, you need a bit of income, or is like, I'm back home, live with my mum and dad, don't worry about me. And we used that to decide who got the work. And we had tutors being so honest and frank and making sure that the wealth in terms of the tuition available was shared and directed to the people that needed it. And that's kind of what we do the majority of the time as well. We say, how much work do you need? And we try and make sure that every tutor is accommodated for. And we fail sometimes because it doesn't match what the schools are asking for, but we try our hardest, I promise. Julia, sorry, I know you're going to be wrapping up to get to 1 o'clock.
Well, it's about the peas round here. Punctuality is important.
Yeah, it's 12:59.
Johnny, you smashed it. You smashed that session. Thank you so much. I would like everybody to give Johnny 2 thumbs up, please. And we're going to take a screenshot. Excellent. Right. Okay. You inspired us. You really, really inspired us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. And thank you for your kind words and your questions.
My
Appreciate
pleasure. Blessings for your house move this week. Not an easy undertaking with 3 children under 4.5 and 2 dogs and a cat. So good luck with that. My friends, just before we go into the lunchtime tutors marketplace, and I can see that Sid's here. Hiya, Sid, and Catherine's made it. Jolyon, you're in. And if you're at King's Tutors, could you name yourselves, please? Hello, welcome. We want your names, please. If you could change your title to make sure that we know who you are. Excellent. Okay, so just before we hand you over to go and join your breakout, I'm going to take advantage of Johnny's encouragement and sharing of our course, and Helen and Hazel as well, to share with you a 60-second promotional video that will show you what the course feels like. You will probably see some of the people in this room in this video because we're a really close-knit bunch of 1,057 members. So, Ludo, if it's ready, please go ahead and play it. Sounds too quiet, Ludo. Super. Thanks so much. We'd love to tell you more about it. You can go and visit Jolyon in the Transformational Training for Tutors group if you want to hear more about our training. Ludo, are the breakout rooms ready?
They are not quite ready. So
Okay, then I'm going to hand over to Sid for a second. You can talk to us